Testing 1, 2. Let's just do this, okay? What's up, guys? It's your girl Victoria. I'm back with another episode of the VL53 podcast, and this is now my second YouTube video. I realized that this is, well, it actually kind of feels like therapy. So when I first started my podcast, it was almost like a form of therapy for me. Yeah, my podcast still feels that way, but I'm realizing that in the name of like consistency and branding and growing an audience, I kind of have to shift to what the people want to hear or what the people want to see, and I'm still trying to figure that out. But for me, it does serve almost as a form of therapy because I'm able to just kind of come and share my thoughts about different things, and also share and express what I'm experiencing and what I'm dealing with, what I'm going through, which again has kind of always been the goal for me with this podcast, to share my experiences and then hopefully that be a source of relief or help for people who may be dealing with some of the same things that I'm dealing with. But also, you guys can talk back to me and share with me like things that you've dealt with and help me get through some of these life issues. Let's kind of be like a group therapy for each other. And yes, I am in therapy, so I do have an actual therapist. Matter of fact, I actually just had a session with her and it was great. Great in that I really like this therapist that I have currently, so shout out to her. I've been in therapy before. I've had several different therapists. She's probably the first person to actually challenge me, and like she gives me like homework to do that's actually challenging for me, that makes me think, that makes me dig deeper. And what I realized in today's therapy session, going in actually, and then also coming out, I have an issue with boundaries. I think I've always had this issue with boundaries in terms of like boundary setting with other people, but also for myself. I've never been the type of person who likes to feel restricted. I've always wanted to be able to just kind of do me, you know? Even though I know for some people that seems a little bit out of place because my personality is to like have things a certain way and to do things a certain way and that kind of have things regimented in a way. But boundaries have always felt restrictive to me. Like even growing up, for those of you again who are new here, who don't know me, who haven't listened to the podcast, I grew up in a very religious household, apostolic. So, that's a little different too. Lots of restrictions, lots of traditional ideologies that my heart and mind never really aligned with, if I'm being honest. Not the foundation of like who God is in Christianity, but just restrictions and the traditions of the apostolic church. I never really aligned. I wasn't feeling it, right? But I grew up in that, so I kind of didn't really have much of a choice. When I'm digging deeper into where my lack of being able to set firm boundaries and stick to those boundaries comes from, it may have something to do with that, like childhood upbringing, religious beliefs and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to ever feel restricted. I don't ever want to feel like I'm trapped in a situation. I don't want to ever feel like I don't have options. But I also want to make sure that whatever I'm doing is comfortable. It's easy to set boundaries when you're in a situation that's not comfortable, when something doesn't feel good and you're able to just cut it off. Like, you know what? No, I'm done with that. But is that really a boundary, or is that like an extreme or a deal breaker? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, I have to set boundaries when it comes to how long I'm going to work, right? And I realized that for me, in order for me to be successful at a company or an organization, I need a certain level of autonomy over the type of work that I do, the hours that I work, reporting structure. Like, those types of things have to work for me, because if it's too restrictive, I'm not going to meet them. And I will cut it off. I'll look for a new job, or I'll be like, this isn't going to work for me, right? I have to be able to have some level of control over how much I give. Unless things feel good. When things feel good, it's like, oh yeah, I have control over my schedule, or I'm in control of the meetings and when I go to them and what's due and the deliverables. When I don't have control over those things, I feel restricted and I feel limited. And instead of me setting a boundary, even at work, to say like, hey, I'm not meeting after 4:30 because the rest of my day needs to be for me. It's like I just cut it off, and it's like one extreme to the other. I hope that makes sense. I've noticed this even with me spending money. It's like if I feel too restricted, which is why I'm not really that good at budgeting. This is I'm just bearing all to you guys. You know all my business. Budgeting and me have never really been a thing because it feels too restricted for me. For me, budgeting is like, okay, yeah, you tell your money where to go and you have a place for it and it goes there. But because I don't understand boundaries, I end up overspending or hoarding. One extreme or the other. I'm either saving a lot of money and I'm sitting on a nice cushion, or then the next minute I go and I splurge it all on like something like trips. That's what I spend my money on. I spend my money on food and vacations. Judge your mother. But it's like one extreme to the next. Like instead of like me actually budgeting, which is a boundary, and establishing a boundary that's healthy, that will work. I can't do it. Not that I can't do it. I'm not gonna say that I can do it. I just haven't been successful at it so far because of the way it feels. Relationship wise too, like with friends, even like I'm always the one kind of overextending myself. I feel like for my friends, I want to show up for my friends. I want to be there for them when they have events, when they have nothing going on. I want to be there because I think that that's the same type of care and concern that I desire from people, right? So I will extend myself to people and for people, even when it means I don't feel like it, or I'm tired, or like I have other things to do. And sometimes it looks like me cramming a whole bunch of things onto my plate because I don't have the boundaries to set in place to be like, hey, I can't do this today, and I'm learning these boundaries in relationships. When you're like first dating someone and you're figuring things out and you're setting expectations and boundaries, it's like, well, this really feels good. Let's just go with the flow. Yeah, it feels good until it doesn't anymore. And then there needs to be a boundary that's set. And it's like, but I don't know how to set boundaries. It's either going to be all or nothing with me. You need to work on that, sis. You really need. And I am working on that because I'm realizing the importance of boundaries. What I'm understanding is that boundaries do not have to be all or nothing. It's like, let's try this, right? And then if we push that boundary and then we realize there's a little bit of wiggle room there, okay, maybe we can loosen the boundary a little bit. Or it's like, nope, that doesn't feel good. Let's tighten it a little bit, right? What I'm also learning, and what my therapist validated for me today, is that it is perfectly okay for me to set a boundary and then change my mind about it. That's powerful. Who said that just because you set this boundary or you set this rule that can't change? Who said that it has to always be this way? What she shared with me today, everything has an expiration date, which I already knew, right? It's like, duh, I know that everything has an expiration date. But expiration doesn't necessarily mean that it's done completely. Expiration of like the way something currently can be or currently is can happen. Does that mean that thing is now gone? No, it just means it evolves into something different. I used to be able to just spend my money freely and I could go and buy breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. But when my money started to dwindle, now my ability to do that has expired. So a new boundary needs to be set. Instead of buying breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, maybe you only buy dinner twice a week. And the rest of the week and the rest of your meals come from you cooking at home. Set that boundary. And then when it's time for that boundary to expire, because maybe something new has happened, my situation has changed, then I can change my mind about how often I want to eat out. Then I can change my mind about how much money I want to spend when I go out. That's what I'm learning in therapy. I'm learning how to set boundaries that are actually appropriate, that don't necessarily need to be extreme boundaries, like all or nothing boundaries. But I'm also learning that it is okay to change your mind. It's okay for situations to change and for them to shift and evolve. And when that happens, that means a new boundary will be set because now you have different expectations. And that honestly made me feel better, because in my brain it was always like, oh, you set a boundary, it's like all or nothing. And then when I hear the word expiration, that sounds scary, right? It's like, oh, I don't want things to expire. I don't, maybe things the way they are, I kind of like them. I don't want them to expire. Well, expiration doesn't mean that it's gone. It just means that it's evolving. It's like if your milk expires in the refrigerator, okay, yeah, you throw that milk away, but guess what? You can get a new carton of milk. It's not like milk is gone forever, because that milk has expired. There's still milk available with a longer expiration date or a further expiration date. So instead of thinking of like expiration being like, oh, this thing is gone forever, just think of it as it needs to be renewed. Like when your tags expire every year. But when you renew them, you extend the expiration date. Your tag number doesn't change. Unless you just buy new tags, but your tag number doesn't change. The expiration of those tags and how valid they are for that time period changes. That expires, but it doesn't mean that your tags are gone forever. That was helpful to me to learn today in therapy. And so I hope that was helpful for you. So sis is about to become a boundary setting pro, honey, okay? Y'all get in therapy. Yeah, find a good therapist. Every therapist is not fit for everybody, I will say that. But I'm very grateful that I finally have a therapist that does challenge my thoughts in that way and helps me to understand things from a different perspective, but also helps me to dig deep and find out the root causes of where my thinking comes from. I only have one other therapist who did that to me, and it was a little weird because I didn't think that we would connect. He was an old, like when I say old, he was old. He was like in his 80s. Jewish man. I got referred to him through my EAP services when I worked for Deloitte. And so, when you go through therapy for EAP services, you don't get to choose the therapist. Like it's just that the company chooses the therapist for you, or the EAP service chooses the therapist for you. I mean, you may have some options in like, oh, do you want a male, female, whatever, I don't know. But basically you don't get to like choose. And I remember being assigned this therapist, and I was just kind of like, oh my God, this is going to be a disaster. He's not going to be able to connect with me. I'm a Black woman. I'm a millennial. He's old Jewish white man, basically. How you gonna help me? Honey, that man used to read me for filth. Okay? He used to read my whole life. He told me all about myself and why I did things. And it was very helpful. It was like, he helped me understand my perspective from like my family, my placement in my family, where I grew up and the ideologies and things that were, shown to me or given to me as growing up. So he actually was a good therapist. So I said all that to say, like, don't despise therapy, give people a try. Don't judge based on, demographic in terms of like how different you may be, because that person may still be able to help you. And yeah, he was a really good therapist. I just ran out of sessions with him because EAP, services only give you so many sessions. But I do want to take this time to encourage you. Go to therapy. Everybody needs therapy. Go to therapy. That's the PSA. That's the message. And there are many different ways that you can find therapy. Like I've tried therapy on my own. I've tried BetterHelp. Whatever you can budget for. You can go through your job and ask them if they have employee assistance programs, which is EAP services. Those programs will find a therapist for you, and they'll pay for like a certain number of sessions, so you don't have to pay for them out of your own pocket. But bottom line is, seek out therapy, seek out ways to get help and talk to people, someone who will give you a different perspective. Your friends and family are great to talk to, but what I've also learned is that your friends and family are very biased. And what I've also learned is that your friends and family will think that they're helping you. They can only help you from a place that they are in. And that's not like any shade or any hate or anything. It's just like, just because you're connected to that person, like family wise or friendship wise, and you've known them for 25, 30 years, however long it is, however close you guys are, doesn't mean that connection is always growing at the same level or same rate, right? So you may be evolving to one place and your friends are evolving in another place because they live a totally different type of lifestyle. So the advice that they give you is going to be based on where they are. And it may be hard for them to understand where you are because you guys are in two different places. So the help or the therapy or the advice that they may provide to you, while it may be good advice, it may not be applicable to your life, which is why it's important to go to therapy, because this person is not connected to you in that regard where they know all the inner workings of your life and they are biased or have a biased opinion about, you know, why you're making certain decisions or why you should or shouldn't be making certain decisions. It just comes from a different place. You know, also, like, I know a lot of people use their pastors as therapists, which I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. Some pastors are actually licensed counselors and they're good, actually great counselors. But for me, it's still sort of like mixing the pot. Now, this is just my opinion. Now, you do you, but this is my opinion. If I'm sitting under someone like as a leader or a church leader, and they are my pastor, I trust them in that regard to lead me and feed me spiritually. But I would want to keep the counseling or the therapy separate. Again, that's me, but you do you. So if you have a licensed therapist or counselor for a pastor, choose you this day how you want them to serve your life. They either gonna be your pastor or they gonna be your therapist. They can probably be both. I personally would not want them to be both for me. It's just too much. Yeah, so that's today's episode. Thank you for those of you who have subscribed to my YouTube channel. This is new for me. But so far I like it. And so 2 episodes in, I like it. I think I'm going to keep doing it. Yeah, as long as it's convenient and easy for me. Because, you know, if it gets too hard, sis has a problem with boundaries. No, but I do want to thank you for supporting me so far. So like the moment I announced my new YouTube channel, I got subscribers, and so thank you to those of you who have subscribed. I do have some plans to really grow this channel and to also hopefully reach, you know, a wider audience and reach people. And so I'll probably have some giveaways coming up soon. Yeah, and what am I giving away, you say? Well, you can get a copy of the A to B Journal, your very own personal copy signed by me. The A to B Journal, 22 Thoughts to Enhance Your Life. That's going to definitely, most definitely, absolutely, yes, be a part of a giveaway. And I'm still trying to figure out what those terms and conditions of this giveaway is going to be, or what the, you know, what the contest is going to be. But stick with me, subscribe so that you can get on my list, join the V list, and be in the know for when I have these giveaways. There will be some other things coming along with the journal that I will be giving away. I also have some other things that I'm going to be launching this year. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to put a time on it, but there are some new things I want to be launching. I don't want to be, this ain't She by Sheree, okay? Things are coming. Just stay tuned. Spring, summer, I don't know, fall maybe. Who knows? Anyway, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for listening. If you prefer to just listen to the V-List podcast, you know, traditionally, like streaming, you can stream the V-List podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. So Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Please make sure that you, if you do listen to it on those platforms, that you rank it, give me a rating, and comment, because that really helps to boost my listenership. And naturally on YouTube, you know, as many times as you stream this video or, you know, grow the following or share the video, that also helps. So I really appreciate you all being here and being a part of my list. You know, more to come. I want to, you know, help introduce myself a little bit more to you all so that you understand who Victoria is and what the V-List is. You're going to learn a lot. I'll probably be a little bit too transparent on here. And I think that was also a scary part of me starting this channel. But hey, it is what it is. I really hope this helps someone. That's all for today, y'all. So, boundaries. I'm working on mine. You work on yours. Until next time, love ya.